Hi. Okay, so this is Warren Ho, and I'm going to be chatting today about the three self-defense tips that can save your life. Firstly, this is a new webcam which I'm trying out. It's the Microsoft Lifetron, so let's see if it works, how the sound is, and if it's any better than my built-in laptop one. So please give me some feedback if you can. Don't know who's out there at the moment. I can't really see anyone joining or whatever's happening. But yeah, please just give me a shout out if you are uh, joining me. Say hi, wave, or do whatever it is. I just need to figure out how to actually check that out online. But regardless, whoever's here, I'm just going to be talking about the self-defense tips. Um, so before I start, my name is Warren. I am a self-defense educator and trainer. I'm not an expert, as some people would like to call it, but I'm not an expert because I feel I'm still learning myself and applying a lot of the stuff that I learn, and sharing my knowledge and my experiences with people. And I hope you like it. I started martial arts when I was really young. I always say 8 years old, but if I think about it, I really only started taking it very seriously when I was 18 at university, but have been doing it quite seriously since I was 18. But martial arts for me was always a passion, a hobby, and I love the whole philosophy and the most some of the martial arts, the whole Eastern philosophy, especially of my background. But what it did make me realize is that martial arts may not be the most practical in a street combative or a live scenario. It has a lot of good qualities and you get a lot of good attributes and skills from it, but if it's not adapted for the streets, it's pretty much useless. So that's where I started going on a path about learning combatives, learning how to use firearms and weapons, and really just exposing myself to a lot more things that are real life that happens out there, and started doing a lot of research myself on in terms of understanding the criminal mind and understanding the nature of violence, which is unfortunately the core at a lot of criminal behavior. So anyway, the what it did boil down though is I did started compiling a lot of programs and training which I felt would be relevant for ordinary people, people like you and me that just want to live a life, have friends and family, have a good time, have a career, do socially good things. I mean, not necessarily trained to always be a victim or trained to be a successor or to train to be successful in criminal situations. So a normal person, like I say, an ordinary person like you and me. So this is where my training differs from a lot of other people. Is that I don't expect people to be training like the military or law enforcement, and or to train as if they're paranoid that something will happen. I want you to be an ordinary person, taking the necessary precautions to train, so that you can live your life to live your full potential. That's why the whole in the background the whole ethos of what Defense Unlimited is about. So Defense Unlimited is just the company that sort of houses all my self-defense sort of solutions. But the way I'm branding it, the bigger picture is me, Warren Ho. And if you check my website out, warrenho.net, I go into a bit more detail as to who I am and what I want to do or am doing. So warrenho.net looks at a whole personal development sort of approach, self-defense being one of them. Lifestyle warrior is another, which is fulfilling the lifestyle warrior stuff, and thirdly the dads against bullying, which is something I'm still to work on, but it's definitely going to be a project. Just being a good dad and trying to teach our children how not to be bullies or not to be bullies, and we do that by being good fathers. But that's for a program later. Anyway, to get into the heart of the things is just to talk about the three most important tips in self-defense. And I call them tips, but they are really more philosophies and concepts which, if applied correctly, can really save your life. And the very first one is to understand what I call the primary question. What are you willing to fight, die, and kill for? And this is something at the core of my training, is that you need to understand what are you willing to fight, die, and kill for before anything self-defense comes into mind. Right? So let's look at it in detail. What are those things, and who are those people that you're willing to fight for? Is it people? Is it things? Is it beliefs? There are so many things that you could fight for, and in this day and age with social media, you can fight for a lot of things online, and we call those keyboard warriors. But you can make your beliefs and your ethics voiced on an online platform. Now, take that scenario. Would you be willing to fight like that? Say, for instance, I'm really big against discrimination. I'm definitely will put it out there on social media. But is it something I would fight for in a real life scenario? Yes, I would. If someone discriminates me or my family, I feel discrimination, I will confront it. I will not necessarily fight about it, but I will confront the issue. If it gets to a fist fight, depending on the situation, I don't necessarily like getting into physical confrontation, especially on things like beliefs, because that's something where you can have an intellectual discussion with the other person. So you yourself can decide, is it something you're willing to fight for? Would you be willing to fight for a loved one, for instance? Would you fight for your wife's honor, or, for your kid, to say, for instance, you get into a scenario where the kids at school are bullying him? Would you fight for him on his behalf? I can't see him. That's where the Old Dads Against Bullying program will come in later. Then what about things? Would you fight for someone trying to steal your phone or your possessions or your car? Again, that is something for you to decide. That's the question. What are you willing to fight for? Then we move on to the next thing. What are you willing to die for? This talks about self-sacrifice. What are the things that you're willing to give your life up for? Is there any one or anything or any beliefs that you would be willing to die for, as in terms of self-sacrifice? I know as a fact that I would sacrifice myself for the life of my son or my wife. And those are two very important people in my life that, I would definitely protect them to the point where if it caused me harm, I would rather have them fine and well. You've got to make that decision as well. And this is the question also, are you willing to die for a cell phone and a car? And a lot of people say, no, definitely not. Yet at the time when something happens, this is when it counts. They do stupid things and accidentally sacrifice themselves for a measly position that is insurable. So this is something where it's important to address the question now while you're in a safe environment and ask yourself, is this something I'm willing to die for? And if the answer is no, you've got to reinforce it every day that if it's not something that you're willing to die for, don't get involved. Right. Then the third one, which is what am I willing to fight for? What am I willing to kill for, which is the big one. So which are those people, those things, those beliefs that you're willing to kill for, right? Are there any people that you would kill for? And I mean, kill in the very literal manner that you would, take their life. Would you kill someone to save a loved one, right? Would you kill or take the life of another for a possession, something tangible like a phone, or something inanimate like a phone or a car? And I use those examples because unfortunately, it has been done. And would you be willing to kill for a belief? Unfortunately, there are some fundamentalist groups out there that do this. And yes, they would kill for their beliefs, their religion, whatever it may be, their conviction. So this is for you from a self-defense perspective to decide what are you willing to die for and kill for, especially. And for the Christians out there, okay, there is one of your religious commandments which says thou shalt not kill. Now, how does this religious belief or this ethical belief conflict with what you're going to be answering in terms of what are you willing to kill for? Now, this debate can't happen when a self-defense situation happens. You've got to have the debate now and decide on it now. So this is what I call the primary question, which is the foundation of all self-defense training, which is what am I willing to fight, die, and kill for? Answer that, and the rest of the self-defense stuff becomes easy. The physical stuff is the easiest part to learn, but it's the things that go up in here, which is the more important stuff, and it's the harder things to work out. And that primary question helps you address that. So the second tip I want to talk about is just understanding the principles of self-defense. And again, I say tip, but there are really concepts and principles which I abide to. And this one is the whole principle which my self-defense methodology falls on. Number one is awareness. Number two is alignment. And number three is about action. So we spoke briefly about awareness, just becoming aware of what's happening up here, what I'm willing to fight, down, kill for. There's a whole host of other awareness things which you need to be aware of. Okay, and I talked very briefly about, in high level, about self-awareness, which is understanding here, and your physical attributes, and a lot more other things, which I can't go into detail right now. And two, which is about your micro-awareness. You understand about your micro-awareness, which is your five senses and your sixth sense, how we use that and how to interpret the things around us and when to register it as a potential threat. All right. And the third one is your macro awareness, understanding the context of where you live in, your area, your suburb, your city, your region, your country. Is what's happening around you from a crime perspective? Is it something which you need to take extra precautions against or not? I can give you a fact now, which is I use the number 1676, okay? And that's the number of possibilities or number of times an average South African could be either murdered, attempted murdered, raped, assault, home broke into, hijacked. You have over 1,600 times per day that could happen to you. So it's 1,600 times plus 365 a day that you as an average South African could be subjected to any of the big six criminal activities which I've just mentioned. So that is understanding the principles of self-defense, which is the first one, awareness, self-awareness, micro-awareness, macro-awareness. Number two is alignment. Okay, what are the things that you align to be able to take part into the various third part, which is the action. So the action is the principle where most people think, oh, this is self-defense, it's the kicking and punching, but it's not. So the action, in actual fact, you have three actions available to you, right? Everybody's familiar with fight or flight, and more familiar with fight, or how they associate self-defense training with, is that something happens, I'm going to fight, okay? That's your one reaction that you can choose based on your primary question. What am I willing to fight, die, and kill for? If it's something you're willing to fight, die, and kill for, yes, get involved, fight, right? But know that question, there's no right or wrong answer. You will decide what the right or wrong answer is, but you also have to live or die with the consequences. So the first action we have is to fight. The second action is to flight or to run away. Yes, absolutely, you can run away from a situation and get away from the situation when it is safe or you're able to do so. So when I say safe, absolutely, when it's safe and you can run away to a safer place, by all means go for it. But it's pointless running away if, for instance, you have your kid lagging behind. You're not going to say, here, take the kid and I'm going to run away. All right, then, you as a father, you as a spouse or a friend or whatever, you sort of neglected your duties to protect your loved ones. So now you can't run unless it's safe or able to do so. When I say able to do so, for me, this was, let me give you an example. 2 years ago, when I broke my leg and I was in crutches and in a cast, I couldn't run. At most I could maybe, hobble away with 2 crutches and, maybe put a little bit of pressure on my leg, but I could not run. I physically could not run. So if you're able to run, do so. Now, for a lot of people that have left school already, and I say those that are working in the corporates, right, when was the last time that you ran full out? You sprinted, for 30 seconds, a minute flat, so you can get away from something. I guarantee you, the vast majority of people who don't do any physical activity, cardio physical activity, are going to struggle to run. They haven't ran for a long time. The fact is, if they run and within 30 seconds, they'll be breathless, their body will hurt, muscles will ache, and they'll need to stop and take a break. In that case, you've done the assailant or the mugger half the job for them. They don't have to chase you. You would have run yourself down anyway. So you've got to understand where your physical capabilities are. Are you able to run? So that's the second action. And the third action, which a lot of people perceive as maybe not an action or a reaction, is to freeze, is to comply. Sometimes it's okay to comply, right? You've got a gun to your head and the guy wants your car. Give him the damn car, right? The car's insured. It's not worth trying to fight or disarm the guy with the possibility of being shot or getting your loved ones shot. Just give him the damn car, right? You might as well just comply, right? If the guy's got a gun to your head already, just for instance at a Red Robot, it's too late to have done anything, right? Comply, right? Once yourself, or whatever it may be, the best thing is just to comply or freeze, okay? The worst thing you can do is obviously freeze out of fear and not do anything, right? This is a different kind of freeze, and this is obviously something which the training, self-defense training, will help you to do, to react, either to fight, flight, or freeze or comply with intent, right? But that takes training. Not many people are able to handle a life-threatening situation just off the cuff. It does require training, whether it's a hijacking scenario, an assault, etc., etc. You need the proper training, because most people we are animals fundamentally. We will react in the way that our limbic brain or our reptilian brain will will react in the way that it's been programmed. The only unfortunate thing is that we've become so sort of modernized with modern society is that we don't know how to fight or flight, which is the natural response, and we just freeze. I call it the ostrich effect. If they don't see me, if I can't see them, they can't see me. All right, and I've got really cool videos of something like this happening to a couple of people getting mugged, and well, it just makes it so much easier to take advantage of people like that. So do the training if you have to. So with that, though, I am appealing for the last half of this to people that would like to do some training with me, that I will be hosting a 3-hour workshop in Johannesburg on the 27th of January, which is a Sunday, and it's called the Introduction to Self-Defense, which gives a little bit more context as to what we've learned today about the 3 tips, and to teach you a little bit more about the fight side of it as well. Is yes, if you need to go to the fight side of it, know something as opposed to nothing. Know what to use, know what to hit without injuring yourself, and you can do it safely. And that's one of the biggest things that self-defense training, I don't say neglects, but they teach a whole bunch of stuff, but it's got to be simple and effective. I use a principle of keep it simple and survive. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can teach that is complicated as heck, and this is from my 30 years plus of martial arts training, but it would be pointless in a street fight. I'll give you the quick and dirty, which will be effective should you need it in what we call a single assailant with no weapons. And later on, I will be doing more courses on multiple attackers, multiple assailants, as well as weapon defense. And you know, before it doesn't sound too dramatic, yes, you know, we look at the most common weapons which can be used against you, as well as learning how to use them in a self-defense situation. That's the key. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the 3 tips that I've given you. And just to recap again, the first tip was understanding the primary question. What am I willing to fight, die, and kill for? The second one was the understanding the 3 principles of self-defense, which is awareness, alignment, and action. And the third tip was to understand that there are 3 actions you can take, which is fight, flight, or freeze / comply. Those are really the foundation of all the self-defense training that I do. And believe it or not, it's not something which is rocket science. It is something that you as an average person that you can apply every day. Use the primary question as your basis of foundation as to whether you get involved. Right? The alignment part, which is important as well from a principle perspective. And lastly, remember that you do have an option to not only fight, but you can run and you can comply as well, if the situation calls for it. Anyway, this is Warren. I hope you enjoyed our time together. I'm sorry if this sounds corny, but this is my second Facebook Live, and it's pretty cool actually. I'm using the new webcam and it looks pretty clear. I do find myself staring down at the screen very often just to see who's online. So thanks for all that are there, and hope to see you in a workshop in person very soon. Until then, please be safe out there. You know, take the necessary precautions and live your life to its full potential. All the best, man. Cheers.